dramatic roller coaster ride because all of the investments may not go up and down at the same time. Still, there's no 100% guarantee, even with mutual funds. Some are riskier than others depending on the fund's focus, which could be in emerging technology, like the pizza app, Crust, or in things that are generally considered more stable, like food products or raw goods. And while it helps to do research before making any investment, a little common sense can go a long way in determining risk versus return. Now it's time to test your knowledge of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Rank these 3 investment types from the one with the greatest risk to the one with the lowest risk by clicking each in the correct order. You got it. Investing in a stock is generally considered a higher risk investment. What's the next riskiest? Right again. Mutual funds are typically lower risk than an individual stock since they bundle together lots of different investments into one package. Click the lowest risk investment type to continue. A bond has the lowest risk as long as it's backed by high-quality borrowers. But be careful, not all bonds are low risk. There are certain types of bonds known as junk bonds that are risky investments. Good going. You're on your way to conquering the concept of risk and return. But first, rank the same 3 investment types in order from the one that offers the highest potential return to the one that offers the lowest potential return. Are you sure you're not a Wall Street tycoon? Because guess what? You got the right answer. A stock has the potential for high returns. But since the stock market is volatile, there's also a risk of losing money. Correct again. Certain mutual funds are designed to lessen overall risk, which often means lower returns. But remember, it depends on the mix of investments contained in the fund. A bond can be a safer investment, which means a bond typically offers less potential to grow your money. But remember, not all bonds are low risk. When it comes to making investments, large risk is generally tied to larger rewards. Conversely, this can also mean potentially larger loss. The fact is, all investments come with the risk that their value will fall after you buy them. For instance, since the stock market can be volatile, the prices and dividend payments for stocks can fluctuate in any given year. Similarly, not all bonds are low risk. In fact, some government bonds, depending on the country and its economic and political stability, can be extraordinarily risky. However, there are ways to invest without taking on a high level of risk, as you're about to learn. Scientists and philosophers have grappled with the idea of time for eons, what it is, what it does, how it changes. Investors also grapple with time and its relation to the investments they make. In fact, time is one of the most important things investors need to consider when deciding how risky of an investment they want to make. Learn how time affects the investment portfolios of 2 different investors. One has a lot of time to save for retirement, and the other is reaching retirement soon. In 1967, there was a particular company whose stock only cost $22 a share. Over the next 4 decades, that company earned an average return of around 25%. While it did lose 20% of its value in some years, if you had bought only 10 shares back in 1967, you would have over $1 million in 2007. It's possible for the stock market to experience large losses in a single day. Most people know about the crash of 1929, which led to the Great Depression, but one of the biggest crashes of all time happened in 2008, when the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 778 points, totaling nearly $1.2 trillion. Imagine if you had all your investments tied up in the stock market. It's important to be aware of risk levels so you can match certain kinds of portfolios to the risk level you want at different stages in your life. As you get older, you may gradually reduce your risk level until you've got a secure, low-risk source of income for your retirement years. At a younger age, you may be able to afford a higher-risk portfolio that has the potential for higher payouts in the future. Besides choosing stocks, bonds, and funds that have a lower risk associated with them, you can also protect yourself by diversifying your investments. Diversification means to create a mix of investments that have differing levels of risk. Since stocks are somewhat risky, you don't want an investment portfolio made of stocks alone. You'll also want to have some safer investments so that if the risky ones don't do well, you'll have something to fall back on. That's why people invest in bonds, mutual funds, and other lower-risk investments in addition to stocks. But even those can carry risks. Mutual funds, which are considered safer than buying individual stocks, come in all sorts of risk levels. Some are heavily weighted towards riskier investments, while others are almost as safe as savings accounts. Then there are index funds that actually let you invest in a very broad investment pool that tracks the market, like the Dow Jones or the S&P 500 or other stock types. Like mutual funds, there are riskier and less risky index funds. The trade-off with diversification is that the safer investments sometimes don't have the potential to make you as much as the high-risk, high-reward ones. But the stability makes it worthwhile if you're looking for a return in the long run, as you're about to see. Investors frequently talk about their portfolio. Just like a portfolio folder which holds all your files and papers, an investment portfolio is made up of all your investments taken as a whole. When your portfolio is higher risk because of the mix of investments you have, it becomes more difficult to know whether you will make or lose money. Move the slider to see how changing the balance of stocks in this sample portfolio affects its overall risk level. A portfolio made up of a mix of different investment types is generally considered low risk, but remember, there is no such thing as no risk. With half of your investments in stocks and the other half divided amongst other asset types, like savings accounts, your portfolio is considered medium risk. Since most of your portfolio is invested in stocks, which can be volatile, your portfolio would generally be considered high risk. Next, move the slider to see how your overall risk level is affected by the percentage of treasury bonds in your portfolio. Your portfolio has a mix of investment types, including a savings account, but more volatile investments like stocks may increase your overall risk level. Treasury bonds are backed by the U.S. government and are therefore considered to have very low risk. The only other asset in your portfolio that is lower risk than treasury bonds would be your savings accounts, which are insured for up to $250,000. Now that you know that a balanced portfolio can help minimize risk, it's time to practice what you learned. Of these 3 investment portfolios, which has the highest risk? You're on the right track, but not quite there. Remember, the less diversified or balanced your investments are, the more risky your portfolio will typically be. Take another look at the 3 portfolios. The one you picked looks pretty evenly balanced, doesn't it? Great job! The majority of this portfolio is composed of one investment type. Plus, certain stocks can be volatile. Now look at the same 3 portfolios and decide which one holds the lowest risk for an investor. You got it. With your investments pretty evenly balanced between different asset types, this is the portfolio with the least amount of risk.